Hey, welcome back to our show. I see the U.S. Supreme Court has taken the health care legislation, the Obamacare law, and is taking it under consideration to see if it's constitutional. I think this could be the defining issue in this whole presidential election. If the Supreme Court throws out the health care law, it's going to be a real dent in the president's efforts. So there's going to be a feeling in the country that what he did was completely out of line, what the democratically controlled Congress did was completely out of line. This is a lot more complicated than maybe it looks, but I'll give you a few thoughts on this. The key factor in this legislation apparently is the mandate, the health care mandate, where you are required to buy health insurance. And I wrote a column about this week, it's on the website, maybe last week's website, about the flip-flopping going on, that political opportunism sets the tone for whether you're for a mandate or whether you're against the mandate. I used a number of examples. I'm just thinking that as someone that doesn't really cater to both the Democrats or the Republicans, doesn't have a lot of goodwill for either side, that the health care mandate really is a more conservative position. And here's why I say that. Responsible individuals are going to buy health insurance, knowing full well that they run the risk of disaster if they don't have health insurance. They could be financially wipe them out. So they're going to do it if they're responsible. The irresponsible person, even though they can afford it, takes the attitude that, well, if there's a health care emergency, they can run off to the emergency room, get free care. The taxpayer has to pay for it. So you see, if you're responsible and buy health insurance, you got to pay twice. Your taxes are paying for the guy who's the freeloader who doesn't buy health insurance. Then you've got to cover your own health insurance. So you would think that conservatives would be for a mandate to say, look, let's be fair to everybody across the board. And they were, quite frankly, up till a few years ago. Now, Newt Gingrich is the flavor of the month in the presidential election. He's either one or two in virtually every poll going on. He's the new guy that has momentum and could get the nomination. So you would think he's very strong conservative. How does he feel about the mandate? Well, let me tell you what he says. Here's what he said in 2007. Quote, this is Newt Gingrich. Personal responsibility extends to the purchase of health insurance. Citizens should not be able to cheat their neighbors by not buying insurance, particularly when they can afford it, and expect others to pay for their care when they need it. This is Gingrich now. An individual mandate should be applied. And he was taking the party line that most Republicans took just a few years back. I can go right down the line. Remember Tommy Thompson? He was governor of Minnesota. He was the Secretary of Health and Human Resources under George Bush. Here's what he said. This is back 3 years ago. Just like people are required to have car insurance, they should be required to have health insurance. And then you could add to that list any number of Republicans. Lindsey Graham from South Carolina, conservative Republican. Judd Gregg from up in New Hampshire. All these conservative Republicans, all for an individual mandate. And so, in any event, that would seem the more conservative position to me. President Obama, before he becomes president, Senator Obama, when asked in a debate about what he thought of the mandate, said, oh, no, it's a bad idea. He says, if things were that easy, I could mandate everybody to do things, to buy a house, and that would solve the problem of homelessness. It doesn't. It just doesn't work. That's the president of the United States who was against health care mandates before he was for health care mandates. I'm just pointing out to you that the politics comes into play and the sides flip-flop consistently. When Obamacare, first of all, the mandate was issued or was latched onto by Republicans as a response to Hillary Care back in the 1990s when Hillary Clinton, then the First Lady, pushed the president's agenda for health care and pushed her program. And the Republicans said, no, we don't like it. We want an individual mandate. This is the Republicans talking like that. So now that Obamacare has a basis of the mandate, now they're all against it. Both sides have flip-flopped on this important issue. Well, the health care debate is now before the U.S. Supreme Court. All of it or part of it could be declared unconstitutional. Here's my concern. They say the mandate is unconstitutional, but the pre-existing conditions still apply, which means even though you have a pre-existing condition, a company has to sell you health insurance right when you apply for it. Well, then this irresponsible person says, I'm not going to buy health insurance. There's no mandate. The Supreme Court threw out a mandate. What I'm going to do is wait till something happens to me and I get real ill or need the emergency care. I then go and at a cheaper rate buy my health care then, and of course the rest of us pay through the nose. That would be highly irresponsible to allow that kind of thing to happen. Irresponsible freeloaders taking advantage of the system, which is what will happen if the individual mandate is thrown out. Well, the Supreme Court's got it right now. And they're going to take a look at it. Of course, you've got 5 Republican justices, several of which decided the presidential election in Gore versus Bush. And I would think it's going to be very tempting for the conservative bloc of justices, Roberts, Thomas, Scalia, Alito, and Kennedy, to see the scenario just too tempting to pass up. Will politics get involved? Well, of course it will. It gets involved in all these decisions. They flip-flop, they play their own game for personal gain, personal political benefit, and you know what? The rest of us can kind of be damned because we're not really that relevant. We should be, but in the healthcare debate, like so many issues, there's not a dime's worth of difference between Republicans and Democrats up in Washington. Put them in a sack, pull one out, it wouldn't make any difference. That's certainly the case in this mandated healthcare debate going on in Washington, D.C. right now. I'll be right back.